Hey Ben, how you doing today?
Doing all right, brother. How are you doing?
Real good. Appreciate you coming on Patched Up Providers to talk to us today.
Absolutely, no problem.
Throughout our initial journey here, your name has come up a couple times, and a lot of providers have been talking about what you've been doing in the Lehigh Valley and all the great things you've been doing. And once I heard that you have expanded your services for mental health to firefighters and EMS, I was like, we got to get this guy on the show and come and have him come on here and talk about it. It's a hot topic in EMS right now about first responder mental health, taking care of ourselves first. I don't think it's something that we talk enough about.
I would agree with you.
But tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how you're helping others.
Well, so the journey to get here has been kind of interesting. So it came out of a lot of the old school way of doing things, which was we took care of each other quietly behind the scenes. Nobody really talked about it. And through my own struggles, we ended up making myself, a couple other individuals who had also gone through struggles. We ended up making a localized wellness team. And that wellness team started in the city of Allentown, and we were taking care of other Allentown police officers. And as time went on, we ended up expanding out and covering other police departments. And then, fast forward, I end up, I also do a lot of instruction for like verbal de-escalation, crisis response, things like that. And we were teaching EMS about crisis response and verbal de-escalation, different mental health conditions, how to de-escalate those individuals. And during that class, I started talking about wellness and self-care.
So let me just real quick. I think I should have added in the beginning that your background, you're a police officer, you're retired.
Correct.
And you started off with mental health with helping other officers that were maybe struggling with things that happened on the job, maybe PTSD, things like that.
Yeah. Well, it actually started with taking care of the public. So it started where I got involved in CIT and hostage negotiation. And then I got on the CISM team. And from that, I recognized pretty quickly that we hundreds of hours of training on taking care of the public, right? And 0 hours of training to take care of each other in that capacity, in the mental health capacity. And from that, again, this idea came, and it was born out of CISM. CISM took care of critical incidents. But I think what we all kind of see is critical incidents are a piece of the stress, but it generally is not the stress that breaks the person's back. It's all the things combined. It's the life stressors. It's the sneaking up of substance use disorder. It's the financial stress. It's the marriage issues. It's the swing shifts. It's the organizational stress, right? All those things combine, and then a critical incident comes along and knocks the person off, right? So how do we create more resilient first responders? We've got to work on all those other stressors, right? And that is where that was really born from, was paying attention to that. And from that, again, we ended up, we were teaching, doing that same thing, right? Giving out lots of training on how to take care of the public. And in the process of it, I was doing some education on first responder wellness, and the medics in the class, I was under the misunderstanding that paramedics and EMTs were covered by the IFF. And talking about this in the class, taking care of themselves. And I said, if you guys need resources, reach out to the IFF. And then one guy in the class is like, well, they don't cover us. And I'm like, what do you mean they don't cover you? He's like, they don't cover paramedics.
So for our viewers, IFF, what is that?
International Association of Firefighters.
Okay.
So, through my journey of learning all the different systems of the first responder world, some EMTs, if they work directly for a fire department, are covered by the IFF. If you don't, you're not. So from that, again, we had this big police officer wellness team, right? And in this class, we end up hearing that nobody's covering these EMTs and these paramedics. So right there, because we're an informal structure, right? We're an informal structure of vetting providers, making sure that providers can see our people quickly, take care of our people quickly, and are culturally competent for the first responder. But There's no money exchanged. It's literally just like a club of us helping us. Right there, I was like, well, I wasn't aware of that. So you know what? We're covering you guys now too. And the only thing I asked is I asked a couple guys in the class. I said, listen, because we're taking on all this new stuff, I need some help from you guys. I need you to carry some of your own water, but we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna give you access to all of our stuff, but we need some medic peers, and that has since grown to where if you're in a 5-county radius of us right now and you need help, we've got you. We've got you start to finish, whether it's financial problems, drug and alcohol issues, mental health issues, physical therapy. Get a hold of us. We've got you. And what we'll do is we use either your insurance or we find stuff that is free or set up through agreements to take care of our people, because it's absolutely essential. It's absolutely essential.
I've heard that, let's hypothetically say there's a first responder that's having a problem with substance abuse, that you've already done the legwork where if they give you a call and get a hold of you, they can say, hey, listen, I need help. And you have done that work where you can pick them up and get them in placement that day. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're averaging 2 hours actually.
2 hours.
2 hours.
My wife works with a program with what she does. And, I know a little bit about how difficult that could be to, have that happen that quickly with, finding placement for somebody and getting them that help.
Yeah, it wasn't the easiest journey in the beginning. But I come from a background, I was in the Army for a period of time, and I did a bunch of combat tours, came home, became a police officer, and I've always been pretty tenacious. And that's the same way I approach this, that a lot of times that first responder, when they're reaching out, they're about 6 months to a year, maybe 2 years past where they should have gotten help, right? Because we ignore our red flags.
Makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, we push way past where we should have pushed. So we recognize very early that we can't have these long turnarounds. It's got to be quick, because that person's probably way worse off than they're actually telling us.
So I was in EMS for roughly 20 years, and, I worked for nonprofit, and there were things that were available to us towards the end of my career. Like towards the end, you started hearing about Code Green campaign. They started pushing SISM a lot more, but only after a critical incident or a high stress call happened. But I can't really think of many times where we had any training or even conversations in a room with all the first responders. Now we're talking about, 100 employees. And there wasn't really any training or anybody that was coming in and having us look in the mirror and being like, hey, are you okay?
Right.
And I think it's important. And I'm just wondering are we moving the ball? Are we getting better with that?
I think we are, at least locally. I know that with our work with LVLEO, we give out free training to really anybody in a 5-county area, where we'll do a 1-hour first responder wellness course. So it's not only what we've all had the training of what it looks like when we're under too much stress, right? But then what do you do with that? And the most important thing is, how do you take care of the guy next to you? Because again, even with all this training, we're still a selfless profession. We're probably going to push past our own uncomfortability, right? But what usually takes care of us is that guy next to you, right? So we're training each other to, just like if one of our providers, one of our first responders starts to show the issues, the signs that they're having a heart attack, right? Across the board, fire, police, EMS, we've all been trained on what to do in a heart attack. And we can save our brother's life, our sister's life, right? My goal and our goal with LVLEO is to train each other on what it looks like when the person's not doing well with their mental health and getting them help earlier. So front end is training. Back end is resources, quick, ready to access, again, culturally competent resources, because we are different than the average bear. Things that we may say to, a regular mental health professional might be a red flag, whereas someone that understands us in our profession, they'll recognize it's not a red flag, right? It's because it's how we think. And then that middle piece is the most important. Those are those peers.
Like recognition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. The peers in the middle that can take care of one another, right? That are watching each other, that are taking care of each other. And that's what begins to change our culture to where we start taking care of one another.
Do you think it's better or worse in like city based versus nonprofit or private?
So yeah, I mean, I'm actually glad you asked me that. So one of the things I always found very, very interesting, especially for the EMS paramedic world, is almost the level of being forgotten. Again, I wasn't even aware that nobody covered paramedics and EMTs for, and I almost 2 decades, in this line of work, and I didn't know. And one of the things that it really made me think of is when I was in the military, our medics were the most protected person in a platoon, right? Your doc was that guy is going to get the most protection. He's one of the most loved people in the platoon. And then I get out here and the opposite is there. It's like, and I don't think it's anybody's choice to forget EMS, but I think it's just the nature of what's happened with employment, right? So you have cities, towns, right? What do? They have a police department, they have a fire department, and then you end up with nonprofits, health networks that are in charge of EMS and paramedics. And what I think happens there is two things. One, all the other first responders, the police, the firemen, we assume that someone's covering your six, right? When we were wrong. And that's the one thing I think if I get anything out in this podcast, nobody was covering your six, right? And we need to make sure that's known in other regions. Nobody is covering the six of the EMTs and the paramedics. So as a profession of first responders, as fire and police, it is on us to take care of our brothers and sisters. Now, do I recognize that there's complications to that with unions and all that other stuff? Yeah, whatever, right? There is. But at a personal level, we've been able to do it locally, right? We took you guys into our wellness team. We take care of you guys. We found ways to make it work. And I challenge the rest of the first responder community. Take care of your EMTs. Take care of your paramedics. Because if they're working for nonprofits and if they're working for health networks, chances are very, very, very high. They don't have anything more robust than maybe a basic EAP to take care of them. And that's not enough. EAP is there. It's great for, a secretary. It's great for your average employee, right? It's not effective. 3 telehealth sessions, 5 telehealth sessions are not effective to the EMS provider who just put a dead kid into a bag. It's not enough. So there needs to be more robust stuff there. And the workers' protections, right? You guys get put into the same environment, the same situations as us. And we need to make sure that if you're injured on the job, that you have the same protections, right? We have to be our brothers and sisters keepers. So in my opinion, again, it is essential that other regions do what we've done locally and really, really start, one, taking care of our EMTs and paramedics, and then 2, getting the training in to EMS, right? The wellness trainings are absolutely essential so that they can learn on the front end. Here's what it looks like when I'm not doing well, then here's how to take care of each other. And then should I not do well or someone around me not do well, here's the localized resources that are available if you need it.
Something that comes up into my mind is like, I talked a little bit about trauma-informed care.
Mm-hmm.
Does that loop into what we're talking about right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So trauma-informed care has been, it's kind of like, like anytime there's a buzzword out there, right? It's overused.
Yeah.
It's overused to the point where it's been watered down to like being trauma-informed is like, being sensitive to the fact that if you take your daughter's cell phone away, she's going to be angry, right? In our profession, trauma-informed care is recognizing that many of us are walking around with years and years worth of experiences on top of us, right? And the myth is out there that you get harder the longer on that you are on the job, right? You get more conditioned. It doesn't work that way, right? Mental health, very similar to physical health. The longer you're doing something and the older you get, the worse it gets. And if we're not staying in shape, right? If we're not keeping our bodies in fighting shape and we go out and we try to move a heavy patient, or we get out for a police officer and we run after somebody, right? We have a high chance there we're going to get hurt, right? Because we're not in fighting shape. Our mind's the same way. If we are not keeping our minds in fighting shape, and what I mean by that is doing healthy things, processing those old traumas, dealing with those budding issues like substance use, right? Untreated other things. It could be childhood experiences, right? A lot of us get into this profession to stop bad things from happening, right? And the reason that we want to stop bad things from happening is at a young age we learn that bad things happen, right? So all that stuff, you get older, it's sitting there. And if you never process it and you never work on it, your mind is not in fighting shape. And then things come along and they knock us off.
It's that one straw that breaks the back, is like
That's
you said earlier.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, death by 1,000 paper cuts.
I heard what you said about, taking care of EMS providers when they're injured on the job. And we're not, and like, we do get injured physically on the job, but we get injured mentally on the job.
That's right.
I feel a little grimy myself because, of a chief of a large organization, I did not put as much of an emphasis, like having this conversation. I'm thinking in my mind, like, did I check in on people enough? Did I put an emphasis on that? Like, I think that making sure the trucks were staffed and response times were there were more important than, recognizing signs that somebody wasn't doing okay and sitting down with them and being like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, don't worry about going in service right now. Like, we'll turf the call, mutual aid it. Like, you have to be okay. We have to make sure, like, you're number one. We teach that in class, right? Like EMT, paramedic class, who's number one? You're number one, right? Like, your safety's paramount, but we don't act that way. Like, and I think something has to change, so.
I think you bring up a good point, and I think most of us at some point have been guilty of this. I know I even was at times. When I was in charge of people, there were times I let old bad habits come back. And we have to remember, right? The first responder world is constantly called a family, constantly, right? And we are. We're just a very dysfunctional one. And with any type of family, what we have to do, and this is, we talked about this a little bit earlier before we started filming, we have to make a decision on, am I going to take the good things from the last generation and carry it forward? And am I going to draw a line and say the bad things we're not going to do anymore, right? Because if we continue the cycle of bad habits, we're going to continue to pass them on. And then what ends up happening is in a crisis situation, we go to our training. And if our training was toxic and we're now stressed out as a leader, right? And our training taught us to do toxic things, that's what we're going to do. You got that person that's coming in and saying, hey, my kid's sick, things aren't going well at home, I really need to go home. And you're saying, nope, in my day we toughed it out. So you get your butt back out there, right? We're passing on those bad habits by doing that, right? Instead of being creative as a leader and going, I'm hearing you. And it may not be, I'm going to send you home right now, right? It may be, hey, can you give me 1 hour and let me get somebody in here to cover for you, right? And then what you did is you now have allowed that employee to go home, stabilize his home life, right? And you built trust in that employee. So 2 wins right there. 1, more stable home life, which means he's going to be paying attention better at work. 2, you've also built trust.
And respect.
Yeah.
Mutual respect,
That's
right?
right. That's right. As compared to the easy thing, which is tough it out, right? But that's because that was what was done to us.
I've heard it, and early in my career, it was, trying to keep it PG-13, but it was like, hey, suck it up, suck it up.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah. And there's an element of that in the moment.
Yeah.
In the moment, we do have to suck it up, right? In those horrible incidents, in those long shifts when there's no one to cover, right? But we don't need to put that on people all the time. It doesn't make sense, and it's unsustainable. It's the reason I think that we're seeing mass attrition from these professions, right? Because there is a level of grit we need to have. We need to be gritty, right? We need to be tough and be able to tough things out. But you can't do that for 25 years. So we also need to know when to treat each other well, when to take care of each other, and teaching each other resilience. And resilience is different than grit. Grit's toughing things out. Resilience is the wisdom to know when you need to take a knee. And then as your brothers and sisters, you know that you need to cover their six while they're taking a knee, right? So covering their six when they're taking a mental health knee too, not messing with them and crushing them into the ground. And that is the key to really helping our profession become healthier.
First responders, you're starting to feel a certain way. A lot of us have this aura or thought process where we're weak if we think there might be something wrong with us or we're struggling and we don't want to ask for help.
Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit about how we can overcome that.
So it's twofold. One, if somebody from your circle of 3 to 5, and we all have them at work, right? The people that we talk to on a regular basis, if they're saying it's time to do something, it's time to do something. If they're saying it's time to talk to somebody, it's time to talk to somebody, right? Maintaining that internal willingness is absolutely essential. And if I'm feeling off, right, I got to do something about it. And we understand that pretty well on the medical side, right? And this is the best example I like to use. We all know the signs and symptoms of a stroke, right? Across all our professions, fire, police, EMS. And if I come into work, right, and I'm looking at you and your face is drooping, you're sweating, you can't feel your arm, and I'm like, bro,
You're stroking
hey,
out.
I think you're having some type of cardiac event. Let's get to the hospital. You're going to go, okay. You're not going to argue. You're going to be, no, my face is normally this way, right? You're not going to do that, right? You're going to go get help. Having that exact same willingness, telling yourself now, not when it happens, but telling yourself now, if my trusted crew is telling me something's wrong and I got to get help, it's time to get help.
So listen, almost like you got to listen.
Yeah, and giving yourself the permission to have that willingness. And again, recognizing it's not weakness, right?
And almost like if other people are starting to notice, it's almost like a sign that like, maybe we got to start asking the right questions.
Yeah, they're seeing it. They're seeing your face droop, right? So they're giving you the warning sign. They're taking care of you, right? So maintaining that willingness and recognize it is not weakness. An injury to your psyche is the same as an injury to your body. There's no amount of strength that is possible. It's just like saying you can work your leg out to be able to take a semi truck hitting it, right? You can't. If you get up with a leg injury, you end up with a leg injury. You got to get healing, right? You need to get medical care. Same thing for your psyche. Then the other side of that is, what do you do, right? And this one is pretty simple. If you notice that somebody isn't doing well, ask them how they're doing. 9 times out of 10, they're going to tell you they're absolutely fine. Ask again, how are you really doing? How are you really doing? And be prepared to listen. Be prepared to listen. Spend some time with them. Get talking to them. The best advice I have is this. Across the board, between all of our professions, we are getting copious amounts. I know because I'm the one running around doing it. Copious amounts of mental health recognition training and de-escalation training to get civilians to go to the hospital, to calm down and go to the hospital. We're already armed with the skills to be able to do it. We just need to do it for each other. And that's the best way to explain that. You know, we receive all this training, but we need to be able to use it to take care of one another, if that makes sense.
It does. Absolutely. So you're a first responder and you are struggling and you know you are. Maybe you're a little reluctant to reach out for help. How can they reach out? What are the steps they take to get your assistance?
Absolutely. So first thing is I'm always big about my contact information being right out there. So shoot me an email, BIOBST at BTIconsultingservice.com. Shoot me an email if you're struggling. I've got you. On top of that, if you want stuff for your agency, again, shoot me an email. Or if you're in one of the local agencies in a 5-county radius of Lehigh Valley, just talk to your agency who's involved in LVLEO, and they will get you the resource guide. Now, we don't public face the resource guide because we don't believe in hotlines, right? That resource guide's all of our personal contact information.
You don't really have a huge footprint on the internet, I've noticed.
We don't have a footprint on the internet, and the reason is we're kind of like the mental health mafia, right? We want people to know that we're here to take care of things quietly, behind the scenes, It's going to be confidential. We're going to get you help, and we're going to respect you in the process of it, right? We're not looking to be out there, with banners and everything on the internet, right? Because what is most of that stuff? Most of that stuff is cheap, right? We'll show up at your house at 2:00 in the morning when you're struggling to drive you to rehab, right? But we're not going to put some corny thing on the internet.
Yeah. No, that's smart. It would make people want to reach out and get help more.
Absolutely. And on top of that, I'll make sure that you have my contact information and the regional coordinators. All of their contact information we'll make sure that's in the descriptions of the podcast.
Excellent. Well, we will make sure we roll it in the credits.
Heck yeah.
I really appreciate you coming out today and talking with us. We are going to put your information out there. And I always go by this, like patched up providers, like, why are you doing this? I'm like, hey, if I can help one kid go to EMT school, like that's why we do it.
That's right.
If we can get your information out there and you can help one more person, I already see that, you're in the hundreds of people that you've assisted. It's awesome work.
Yeah.
And maybe, if someone's reaching out or looking to find something, that they reach out, they get that help. We'll give them that email address and we'll take it from there.
Absolutely.
Thanks again, Ben. I really appreciate it.
No problem, brother.
All right. Take care.